What's poppin', everybody? So today is a very special day and one of my favorite days outside of Mario Day. It's May the 4th be with you. Now, I'm coming as a little message to tell y'all to watch through the very end of this video that I worked very hard on. It took me hours to make. I know it may not look like it, but it took me hours because I had to do a lot of editing and stuff, and I had to put the video together. So, yeah, make sure you guys comment, like, and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into the Star Wars vid. Let's get into the Star Wars vid. And happy May the 4th be with you guys. And I will see you guys in a little bit. Bye.
So it's Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you, which gives me an opportunity to talk about Star Wars. And you know what's so funny is I find talking about Star Wars so much more interesting than actually watching Star Wars. There's a lot of Star Wars, especially in the modern age with the TV stuff, that kind of bores me. And I'm not going to claim to have seen every single, piece of media they've put out. There's certain shows that I've missed. But as a whole, I find Star Wars to be a wildly fascinating film series, especially as it pertains to film culture and film fandom and even film criticism to a certain extent. And I mean, this isn't really a hot take or anything, but to begin, I think that A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back are perfect movies. Empire especially, I think, is one of the, on the Mount Rushmore of greatest sequels of all time. I think in many ways it kind of laid out the template for how you do a great sequel to a genre film, where that was the original. We need to get darker. We need to expand the lore. It needs to be a little bit more depressing, a little bit deeper with the characterization. Love both those movies. I like Return of the Jedi quite a bit. I find it to be a frustrating movie because I think when it's good, it's great. I love the stuff with Luke and Vader. I like the way that movie starts, and I like the way that movie ends. I think the middle is kind of weak. You have the Ewoks in there, and honestly, Han Solo, I feel like, who was so great in the first two, was kind of wasted. He's kind of a useless character in that one. And then you get to the prequels, which, I've probably spent more time talking about the Star Wars prequels than any other film series that's ever existed, and yet I still feel like I've barely skimmed the surface about, my opinions on the prequels. I find them everlastingly fascinating to discuss. And I realized this, I pointed this out when I talked about Revenge of the Sith the other week, but the Star Wars prequels, I think, culturally, existed in a very specific and short-lived time in our universe, which is, it was post-creation of the internet, but it was pre-social media. Yes, you had fan forums and stuff like that and message boards, but it was this short-lived window where, yes, you could get access to films, to trailers online, when there were movie websites, Ain't It Cool News, stuff like that, StarWars.com, but at the same time, the toxicity that surrounded Star Wars fandom, that I would argue still continues to this day, did not exist until several years after those movies were released. And the life of the prequels has been ridiculously fascinating. And people have had evolving opinions of them, and my opinions have evolved. I mean, the prequel films to me are this weird Rorschach test where every time I watch them, I get something new. And it's difficult to judge because so much of it is nostalgia. I think that I'm a very interesting age for Star Wars fandom because I'm almost 30, meaning that I grew up on the originals on VHS. I saw the prequels as a huge part of my childhood, and I saw the sequel trilogy into my adulthood. And the prequel films are movies that I'll never be able to let go of because of how important they were to my formative years and the hype behind them and the toys and, the lightsaber fights, all that stuff. I acknowledge that nostalgia is a big part of it, but my opinion of those movies over the last several years has actually changed and grown quite a bit. I think Phantom Menace is messy and often very boring. I think there's great stuff in it. And that's the thing is, I think so many of the criticisms people have hammered home about the Star Wars prequels for the last 20 plus years, I watch them in the modern age, and it just doesn't bother me as much. When people talked, when they came out, they said, oh my God, it's so much CG, way too much CG. And I watch it today, I'm like, yeah, but the CG looks good. It looks better than movies that come out today. And there's certain things that I've just accepted are bad, but don't bother me the way they used to. The love dialogue between Anakin and Padme in the last two prequel films, is laughable and even at points like objectively terrible. And yet I watched it today. I went to see Sith last week, and I'm just like, all right, whatever, it's fine. They fall in love. It's Shakespearean. It's Greek tragedy. I could deal with it. Star Wars to me has never been about having Aaron Sorkin like dialogue. It's more about the world building and the story and stuff like that. And I think that over time people have come to accept that with the prequels. I also think the prequels got significantly better as they went along. And I saw Sith in theaters last week for the first time in 20 years, and I love it more than I ever have. I think it's actually a really bold film in many ways. And even though it is a prequel and we knew how it was going to go, it's very rare for a big budget film, like $1 billion film, to be that goddamn depressing and sad. I mean, it really is a downer of a movie, but it is like watching like the Hamlet in space. It is watching this kind of Greek tragedy unfold. And I think that, you know, that was the one where Lucas is like, we need more visual storytelling, and the score and the CG and the fights. Like, Sith is just a really good movie. And I will, for the record, I am going to watch the prequels, or the Clone Wars animated show. I'm honestly interested in it now, because for the longest time, my belief was, the prequels or whatever, like, I don't need more prequel stuff. My opinion of them has evolved, and I've grown to appreciate them more, where I'm like, okay, I do want to watch more supplemental material. But I've talked about the prequels enough. The sequel trilogy and the Disneyfication of Star Wars is fascinating, but also kind of sad to me, because I think at a time they were onto something that was really cool. I understand Force Awakens is remarkably derivative, but people forget, we are very quick to forget, how divisive Star Wars was at the time in which the sequel trilogy was released. And it was really important to the filmmakers, and I think even to the fans, to make something that felt very familiar, to make something that felt like home again. And Force Awakens, I think, accomplishes that. Then you have Rogue One, which is just awesome. Rogue One, I think, is the prime example of how you do a spinoff, how you make supplemental material that actually improves upon the original source. Like, I think A New Hope is better because Rogue One exists, and that's coming from somebody that thinks A New Hope is essentially like a perfect movie. After that, there's really no other way to put it. They lost their fucking minds. And I rewatched the sequel trilogy about a year ago at this time, just because I wanted to get a little bit of closure, or see if I could get closure, and I did. Yeah, they kind of stink. I think that there's some neat ideas. I think that the performances are good. I think they look good, at least the first two do. Rise of Skywalker doesn't, but the first two, at least, they have good cinematography and good CG and good practical effects, but they go nowhere. And the entire time I was watching The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, I'm just saying, God, they fucked this up. But I mean, they really fucked this up. You know, the big complaint, understandably, is that there was no real concrete plan of where they wanted this thing to go, which I think is the biggest difference between the sequels and the prequels, is that Lucas had a general roadmap of where he wanted this thing to end. With the sequel trilogy, yeah, I mean, it felt like they made this shit up as they went along. And it's too bad, because I thought they had great actors, and I thought they set up great characters. Like, Finn in Force Awakens is very cool. Kylo Ren is very cool. Rey in Force Awakens is very cool. And I think for the most part, they didn't get the most out of the characters that they set up in those universes. And I would also argue, especially when it comes to The Last Jedi, there's a lot that they shake up about the Star Wars lore that I find at points, I mean, it's kind of silly to put this way, to be kind of offensive, and I would argue mean-spirited to a certain extent. Like, I just feel like The Last Jedi is a giant middle finger to anyone who liked The Force Awakens, which is a bizarre creative choice for a studio or for a filmmaker to make when making a sequel to a beloved series. So yeah, I could do without those. I find them tremendously disappointing. There are things about Disney Star Wars I like. I like the first two seasons of Mandalorian. And at some point in the future, I want to do a separate video about, like, what can Star Wars do to kind of get themselves back in the right track, because I think very similar to Marvel, it's not impossible to make good Star Wars now. I think the issue that they've run into, it's the same issue Marvel's run into, is consistency. You get a good product, then you get two lame ones, then you get another good one. Whereas I think that's something like Star Wars and the MCU is the same way, is at its best where it was consistent, good, great, good, you know, kind of, you know, throughout the entirety of the Infinity Saga, if we're talking about Marvel. I think that I would like to see, and this will never happen, I would like to see there be something of a throwback in regards to how Star Wars is consumed, and I think that it starts with definitely easing up on the throttle in regards to consumable home entertainment. I think that Star Wars in many ways sets the standard for what modern cinema is, and I think Star Wars was at its most popular when movie theaters were at their most popular. And I think, as much as I've had my complaints about the modern movie experience, the experience of seeing a Star Wars movie with a full crowd, a highly anticipated next chapter of the saga, is a really appealing thing that I think is lost in this age where you can just watch 6 episodes at home. And, I think probably the cat's out of the bag. Pandora's box has been opened and we'll probably never get back to that. But I think that there is an ability to get some sort of resetting of the lore and telling future stories that aren't necessarily tethered to things that came before or potentially things that are going to come after. So yeah, Star Wars is a very bizarre thing to me because I will rip it to shreds. I will be pissed about it. I'll get angry. I'll feel like I can do it better, but I will always root for it to be something that finds its footing, because it was very important to me and still remains very important to me, both in my childhood, my formative years, and into my adulthood. I mean, say what you will about the quality of the product, but it's very rare that something that you connect with as a child sticks with you and you remain so passionate about it well into your adulthood. And I think that that's why Star Wars sticks with people. So may the 4th be with you.
Did I sound like Vader? I know yesterday was May the 4th, but hey, May the 5th be with you. You feel me? With yesterday being Star Wars Day, I'm going to rank from worst to best all the Star Wars movies, man. As a shocker to absolutely nobody, the stinky is a stink, the bootiest a butt, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is in last place. This movie created irreparable damage to the Star Wars community, to the Star Wars fan base, to the Star Wars media genre, and they're still trying to recover from it, man. Just make a Jedi. It was right there. Attack of the Clones, when I first watched it, man, I was on my Star Wars high, on my Star Wars kick, so I thought it was good. But on rewatch, this is such a bore. This movie doesn't do a whole lot right, but they do get Padme and Anakin's relationship right. It feels real, it feels natural, for the most part, when he's not talking about how he hates sand. Next up, I'm going to go with Solo. I'm not going to lie, I don't hate Solo, but I also don't love Solo. Solo, it's just there. It's a movie. This is Star Wars' definition of a movie. Definitely don't think this movie deserves like a mega amount of hate, but I can see why this isn't a fan favorite. You feel me? I know there's going to be people that see this ages 30 to 53 that see Return of the Jedi this low, but let's keep it a man. This movie has a ton of problems. They're coming after a nuke in Empire Strikes Back. Return of the Jedi falls flat on his face a little bit. It does give a pretty satisfying conclusion to the Luke Skywalker era of Star Wars, but in my opinion, it left a lot to be desired. Next up at number 7, I personally got The Last Jedi. I know for a lot of people, this is the movie that ruined Star Wars for them, but I can't lie, I'm gonna put my hands up right now. Y'all can be mad at me in the comments. I don't give a fuck. I didn't hate this movie, especially on first watch. Now, I've watched it a couple of times since, and as I watch it more and more, I can see the problems that people can have with it. But not gonna lie, on first watch, I thought it was pretty good. I thought Luke had all the aura in the world. I loved Kylo Ren's double turn. I thought Rey was very interesting. The stuff with Finn, what were they doing with that, bro? Like, that made no sense. But everything else was good. I just feel like they made this risk. They should have committed to it in Rise of Skywalker. And I think if they would have committed to it, it would have made this movie a whole lot better. Next up, and honestly, you could convince me that this is a tad bit too high. I could be convinced because I do think it drags a ton, is Rogue One. A little bit, I was only interested in the big stuff with Star Wars, lightsabers, the big fights, you know what I'm saying? But this is the first time I saw one of those smaller Star Wars stories. I was like, I'm actually pretty interested. And that Vader scene at the end almost got it top 5 alone. I can't cap. We're on to the top 5. At 5, I got Phantom Menace. This movie just holds a special place in the heart, man. I thought the early 2000s effect of it, young Anakin, me first getting into Star Wars, everything about this just made it so much more enjoyable. You feel me? Seeing the come up of Obi-Wan and seeing Darth Maul in action, man, oh man. Darth Maul shouldn't have got off in that movie, bro. We needed more Darth Maul. Needed it. Not gonna lie, I messed with The Force Awakens so much that if the rest of the trilogy was good, this has a case for me to be like 2 or 1. Not gonna lie. But even now, this movie is hitting like fine wine, man. Kylo Ren, his whole dynamic is one of my favorite in Star Wars. Seeing Finn's story from a stormtrooper to what should have been a Jedi was supposed to be awesome, but what they did with that. The way Han Solo went out was epic as hell. Seeing Rey get it built up was cool. I just think this movie was a great way to start off the new trilogy, even though they went absolutely nowhere with it. Not gonna My age might be showing a little bit with these next 3 picks. Because, yes, I have A New Hope at 3. I know A New Hope's damn near a perfect movie. I love it. Don't get me wrong. This poster is otherworldly, bro. Like, holy shit. Introduction of Luke, of Leia, of Han, of Darth. Everybody is awesome. But my age is going to be shown. Holy shit, bro. Who made this poster? Genuinely, who made this poster? I have chills just looking at it. But yes, I know. Please don't get mad at me, bro. I have Empire Strikes Back at 2, which only leaves my favorite Star Wars movie of all time is Revenge of the Sith. I know what people are going to say. This movie has problems. The script is kind of cringe. Anakin's acting can be a little off. I don't give a shit about any of that, bro. This is the movie. I didn't know that Anakin was Darth Vader. So when I found out that it was, I was watching this movie the entire time like, no, Anakin, come on. No, don't turn to the dark side. No, they're setting you up. No! To me, that is a one-of-a-kind experience. Now, not everybody's going to be able to experience. Hell, not a lot of people get the experience that in general with the way Star Wars is nowadays. So I feel like that, to me, that just is too unique to leave it at number 2 or 3. You feel what I'm saying? This is my number 1. But don't get me wrong. If you want to say I'm wrong and New Hope or Empire Strikes Back should be number 1, fair. That's your list. I'm not mad at it. But me personally, I got Revenge of the Sith at number 1. Y'all think of that list? Was it ass? Was it gas? What is y'all Star Wars ranking? Drop it in the comments down below. Because you know we got to talk about it, man. And happy Star Wars Day. Simple.
I am your father.
I love you.
I know.
Too short for a stormtrooper.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
Do or do not. There is no try.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
20 facts you didn't know about Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. Number 1. The scene where Luke uses the Force to get his lightsaber was accomplished by Mark throwing the lightsaber and showing it in reverse. Number 2. Mark Hamill had to bang his head on Yoda's hut 16 different times before they thought they had the best take. Number 3. George was so impressed with Frank Oz's performance that he tried to get him nominated for Best Actor, but the Oscars didn't think a puppeteer was an actor. Number 4. The only stunt that Mark Hamill didn't do himself was getting pulled out of the window at Cloud City. Number 5. Carrie Fisher had to stand on a box when doing scenes with Harrison Ford, since he was 6 foot and she was only 5 foot and 1 inch. Number 6. Originally when Princess Leia said I love you, Han was going to say, just remember that, Leia, because I'll be back.
I love you.
I know.
Number 7. When Mark Hamill was having trouble with Yoda on Dagobah, Frank Oz brought in a Ms. Piggy Muppet to make him laugh. Number 8. They decided to freeze Han Solo in carbonite because the crew weren't sure if Harrison Ford was going to return for another sequel. Number 9. The scenes where R2-D2 was submerged in the mud on Dagobah were shot at George Lucas's unfinished swimming pool. Number 10. As the Millennium Falcon is entering the asteroid field, one of the asteroids in the top left corner is actually a potato. Number 11. The blizzard on Hoth was a real storm, and it was so bad that Harrison Ford had to arrive on set in a snowplow.
So they could barely shoot.
Number 12. Mark Hamill's wife gave birth to their son during filming, and he left the hospital to go shoot the stunt where he exits the speeder on Hoth. Number 13. On that same stunt, Mark Hamill performed it himself, and he ended up breaking his thumb in the process. Number 14. The lightsaber fight scene focuses on Luke instead of Vader because the fight double for Vader couldn't breathe with the helmet on. Number 15. To get the sound of Vader's helmet getting put on, they recorded a vacuum with a hand getting put on it while it sucked up dust. Number 16. When Han is about to be frozen, he has handcuffs on, but after getting frozen, his handcuffs disappear. Number 17. As the crew walks through Cloud City, Leia's in between Han and Lando, but in the very next shot, Han and Lando switch sides. Number 18. When Luke fails at lifting his ship, he puts his jacket on and sits with it undone. But as soon as Yoda lifts the ship, it's magically zipped and tucked in. Number 19. The ladder that Luke climbs to get into his X-Wing to leave Dagobah disappears after he gets into the cockpit. Number 20. Just as Vader cuts off Luke's arm, the tape around the cut edges of the poles turns to burnt markings.
Why, hello everybody. Welcome back. So, did you guys enjoy the Star Wars video? I sure did. I watched every last minute of it. And, yeah, like I said in the beginning, it took me a while to record it. So yeah, and it came out to a whopping like 20 or 30 minutes. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, so with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe, and have a happy May the 4th be with you. Bye.